Hello, Sixth Hour. We are going to go over our quiz on the scientific method today. We're going to start our quiz on the second page with question number 7. So, for this question, it states, you are doing an experiment where you are testing how feeding mice different vegetables changes the amount of time they sleep. What is the independent variable in this experiment? First, I'm going to put a question mark by where my question is so I don't forget. My question is, what is the independent variable? It's what I'm trying to look for. Now, as I reread the question, I'm going to now highlight or underline some important information. Might even put a star by it. So you are doing an experiment where you're testing how, I'm going to underline feeding mice different vegetables. I'm going to put a star by different, because I feel like that's a key word, changes the amount of time they sleep. I'm going to put a star by my amount of time. All right. I don't see any unnecessary information in here, so I'm not going to cross anything out. But now I can take a look back at my question. I'm looking for the independent variable. That's the variable that the experimenter gets to choose. We know that we're feeding mice different vegetables. And we know we're measuring the amount of sleep that they receive. So, is what the scientist is choosing the vegetables feeding the mice, the amount of time the mice sleep, the time of day the mice sleep, or the time the mice are fed? Take a second and choose your answer. You can pause the video at this time if you need to, but we're going to move on to question 8. You perform an experiment investigating how fast a baseball reacts off of different types of bats. Which variable listed below would you want to keep constant? There's our question. Now we are looking for a constant, something that we want to stay the same. See, I'm performing an experiment. I want to know what the experiment is. So that is how fast a baseball reacts off of different types of bats. I know I'm looking at different types of bats. That's important. And I know that I'm looking at how fast my baseball reacts. So, we're changing the bats. And we want to see how fast my baseball bounces off of the bat when I hit it. What do I want to stay the same for this experiment so that this experiment works? Only testing the different types of bats. So would I want the type of bat to stay the same? The speed of the ball reacting off the bat to stay the same? Speed of the pitch thrown to stay the same, or none of those to stay the same? Take a second, pause the video. We're going to continue on to question number 9. Question number 9 states, Justin usually blows his nose using Kleenex tissues. Now remember, this is where I'm going to write in a different color here. Kleenex is a brand of tissue. A lot of people just say, can I have some Kleenex? Kleenex is technically a brand of tissue. It's very popular. Now, Justin's having a problem because it says his snot keeps leaking through the tissue. He decided he is going to create an experiment to find out if there are better tissues for holding all of his mucus. What is the control group? So not a constant, not something that's staying the same, but our control. Remember, control is what we're comparing all our other results to. We also said our control is like our normal condition, what normally is happening. Let's find our important information. So, Justin usually blows his nose using Kleenex tissues. I think that's important because it's telling us what he usually uses. His snot keeps leaking through the tissue. I feel like we really don't need to know that information. Thank you, Justin. But I'm going to cross it out. I think this is unnecessary. I probably misspelled it. I'm very sorry. All right. He decided he is going to create an experiment to find out if there are better tissues for holding all of his mucus. So what Justin wants to know is if there are better tissues for holding all of his mucus. I'm going to just star that. We're looking for better tissues. So, what are we comparing our results to? Or what is our normal condition here? Is our normal condition our type of tissue? Is our normal condition Justin? Is our normal condition the amount of tissue we're using? Is our normal condition the mass of the snot that each tissue can hold? Is our normal condition our Kleenex brand? Remember, we set it up here. Kleenex is a brand of tissue. Take a second, make a decision. We're going to move on to question number 10. Now, this is the same exact passage. So I'm going to quickly reference question number 9, what I underlined. Kleenex tissues. We said that this is not really necessary. Thank you, Justin, for telling us about your leaky snot. We're creating an experiment to find out if there are better tissues for holding his mucus. So, now we're looking for our constant again. Remember, our constant is what is staying the same throughout the entire experiment. So what's staying the same? My type of tissue, Justin, the amount of tissue, the mass of the snot tissue can hold, or my Kleenex brand. What's interesting about constants is there may be more than one answer here. So take a look and make your best guess. Remember to pause the video in order to do this if needed. Question 11 is talking about Justin as well. So underline my important information using Kleenex brand tissues. We don't need to know that his snot is leaking through. Justin, we're all going to be imagining your leaky snot now. Creating an experiment for better tissues to hold all of his mucus. Now, this time around, we are looking for our dependent variable. Now, we know an independent variable is what we choose. All right? What does Justin choose? But that's not what our dependent variable is. Our dependent variable changes because of what Justin chooses. So if Justin is choosing, their independent variable is our tissue type, because he's looking for better tissues, then what is dependent on the tissue type? Type of tissue, Justin, amount of tissue, mass of snot tissue can hold, or our Kleenex brand tissue. What is dependent on our type of tissue? Please pause the video for this one. Think about it. This one's a toughie. We're going to move on to question number 12. Mr. Miles wanted to see how different types of music affect students' pulse rates? He played different types of music: heavy metal, rap, R&B, alternative, pop, country, and classical. Identify the independent variable. Whoa. First off, that's kind of a lot of different types of music, Mr. Miles, to be testing. I think it's important for us to know that he played different types of music, different being our key word here. However, it is unnecessary for us to know what types of music he chose. It may be fun to know, but it is unnecessary. So I'm going to just cross that off. Now let me take a read again. Mr. Miles wanted to see how different types of music affected students' pulse rates. That's important. That's telling us what he is doing. He wanted to see how different types of music affected pulse rates. I think it's important we know it's different types of music. I think it's important we know we're testing the pulse rates. Very important. Now our question again is, what is the independent variable? So what is Mr. Miles choosing in this experiment? Is Mr. Miles choosing the pulse rate? High pulse rates? Classical resulted in highest pulse rate? Mr. Miles choosing Mr. Miles? Or is Mr. Miles choosing the different types of music being played? Take a second, reread the question, use your text codes, and we're moving on to number 13. Number 13 is the same exact passage. So, going to underline what we did before. It's important to know that we're using different types of musics. We're looking at pulse rates, very important. It's important to know he played different types of music. We don't really need to know what that music type was. But this time, we're looking at our dependent variable. So what is dependent on what Mr. Miles is choosing? What's going to change because of what Mr. Miles chose? Is that the pulse rate going to change? Is there high pulse rates going to change only? Are there classical resulted in the highest pulse rate going to change? Is Mr. Miles going to change? Ooh. Or are the types of music going to change? Are the types of music going to change because of what Mr. Miles gets to choose? This one's really tricky. If I were you, I would take a look back at number 12. Think about what is my independent variable first. And then think about what is going to change because of the independent variable. Almost done. Last two. Number 14. This is on the back page. Nick wanted to see how high an ice cube would float in different temperatures of water. Identify my independent variable. So what does Nick want to see? How high an ice cube would float in different temperatures of water. It's important to know we are testing different temperatures of water, and we want to know how high an ice cube can float. So what is Nick choosing in this experiment? Is Nick choosing the size of the ice cube, the amount of water? Is Nick choosing the temperature of the water, the height of the ice cube, or the temperature the ice cube was the highest? What is Nick choosing? Pause the video. Last question. Tiffany was investigating how fast it took Hayden to react to different sounds. All right, I want to know what she's investigating. She's investigating how fast it took Hayden to react to different sounds. It's not really important that we know their name is Hayden, but It is important that we know we're testing reaction to different sounds. Identify the dependent variable. I always hate just identifying the dependent variable. That's hard. So first, I'm going to identify my independent variable. Tiffany is investigating how fast it took Hayden to react to different sounds. I think that Tiffany is in choosing the different sounds. That's something Tiffany chooses. She can choose any sound she wants, just like how Mr. Miles may have chosen the types of music. So, if Tiffany's choosing the different types of sounds, what is dependent on the different sounds Tiffany chooses? Is it Hayden's reaction time? The different sounds? Is Hayden dependent on the sounds? Is Tiffany dependent on the sounds? Or is playing the trumpet over and over again dependent on the sounds? Take a second, pause the video. That is the end of our review using text codes and looking over our scientific method quiz. Make sure to put your name on it. Everybody should have their name on it. And please turn it back into the 6-hour bin. Thank you.